Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought it would be fun to make this little Z-fold card, and we're going to be using quite a few images from the Lawn Fawn collection. So let's go ahead and get started. So I wanted my Z-fold card to have a beautiful stitch border all the way around. So I'm going to grab this largest die from the large Slimline with sliders die set from Lawn Fawn. And then for paper, I'm using a 65-pound weight in the white and the gray. So this is just a little bit lighter because we have a lot of layers and folding to do. So I don't want it to get too bulky. So I'll go ahead and die cut this. Now I'm placing this on a little bit of an angle, and you'll see that it's a little bit too long for my die cutting machine, but we'll just remedy that by sliding it down. We'll run it through here, and then we'll slide it down and run that through again. Now I'm going to die cut 2 of the white and 1 of the gray. And again, you can see that beautiful stitch border we have there. Well, each of these panels measures 8.5 by 3.5. So that would be the size of a large slimline card. So I'm going to score each of them at 4.25 and 2 1/8. So I'll score them all exactly the same way. So again at 2 1/8 and 4.25. And I'm just using my We Are Memory Keepers bone folder to do this. So now that we've got those all set, let's grab the first white panel. And that will have the scores to the right hand side. So we've got the 4.25 and 2 1/8 inch scores off towards the right. Now I'm using my Slimline stitched Hillside border dies from Lawn Fawn. And I'm just going to grab kind of that curvy one here. And I'm going to tape that down with a little bit of purple tape. So I'll place that die just up a little bit from the bottom here, maybe about an inch, 1.5 in some places. I'll tape it down with some purple tape and run that through the die cutting machine. Again, just shifting that a little bit to cut that other end. So I can get rid of that top portion. And now I'll use my Hero Hues Fog ink pad. And I'll go ahead and just add a little shadow right across the top of that border. Now this is going to have that beautiful stitched edge on all 4 sides here, and that's kind of what I was going for with this card. I wanted to keep that beautiful stitching. So now we've got the gray panel, and we're going to do some stitched mountain borders with that. I'm going to grab that smaller one from this set, and then you also have the little snow cap portions there, which we will also die cut. So I'm going to line this up just above that snowy border there. And again, I'll tape that down with some purple tape. And then we'll need to run this through again. And for the little snow caps, I'm going to grab some white 65-pound cardstock and die cut that as well. So now we'll need to line this up again. So I'm just going to lay that die right over that end mountain there. And it lines up perfectly. It'll lock right into place there. This is designed so that you can repeat this pattern. And then I just want to make sure that I tape it down really well, and then I'll run that through the die cutting machine. So now we have those little snow caps, and I die cut quite a few of those. And they're all different sizes, which is really nice. It gives a lot of interest to those little mountain tops. Now I'll go ahead and remove that purple tape. And you can see that border is one continuous border now. So let's go ahead and glue on some of these little snow caps. I'm using my Marvy jewel picker just to pick those up. And I'm using my Lawn Fawn glue tube to glue these down. So I went ahead and did the rest of those off camera. And then anything excess you can just cut away with your scissors. So now you can see how that's going to sit on our card. So now for this larger panel, for the card base itself, we're going to create a beautiful sky. So I'm using my Hero Hues Taffy ink pad, and I'm just grabbing that foam applicator. And then I want to grab this set of stencils. This is a set with 2 stencils in it from Lawn Fawn. This is called Lots of Hearts Background Stencils. And this is really nice because if you wanted to create two different colors of hearts, you could easily do that with this. Today, we're just going to be using the one color, and you do want to make sure you have that Lawn Fawn logo right down at the bottom facing up towards you. And then I'm going to place my paper in my MISTI and in the bottom right hand corner, and then I'll place my stencil in the bottom right hand corner as well, so that everything will line up perfectly when we go to place the second stencil on top. So I'm just using that foam applicator tool, and I'm going to apply a nice even coating of ink all the way around. Now, I should have blocked off this little section of the card here. I don't want to get any of that taffy ink off to the left-hand side here. So I'm just going to mask that off with some purple tape, and then I'll continue doing my blending here. So now I can go ahead and remove this stencil, and you could just leave it like that, but I'm going to add this second layer. Again, you want to make sure that that logo is facing up towards you. I'm sliding that stencil all the way into the right-hand corner, just like we did before. And then I'm going to go ahead and stencil that second section of hearts. Now again, you could use a second color here, and that would be really beautiful, but I decided to keep it all in this same taffy color. So now we can easily flip this around because these hearts are just random, so there's no direction to them. So I'm just going to flip that around. I'll place that first stencil right back in the right hand corner again, but you can see now we don't want to go over quite as far because we already have some stenciling there. So I'm just going to use my purple tape just to mask off those areas that I don't want to add color to. So let's add that purple tape to the left first, and now I'll just mask off. I can see through this stencil where I already have some stenciling. You can see that there. So I'm just going to add some purple tape here, and then we can finish off this little section of the card. So now let's go ahead and do that second layer. Again, placing this with the logo up towards us and placing the stencil all the way in the right hand corner here. And now again, I'm just looking through here to see which little area I need to mask off. I can see those little hearts underneath. So again, I'm just going to put some purple tape down here, and I'll add just a little piece right here, and then we can finish this stenciling. Now, after you do this, if you notice any little areas that didn't look like they got stenciled, or you want to add a little bit more, just grab your stencil and just add some little hearts here. I thought right there where those two kind of came together, there was a little section there that could have used a little bit more of that heart pattern. So I'm just going to mask off some areas and just add one more little heart in there just to tie these two areas together. And I continued to do that in a few other areas off camera. So now I've got my purple tape that I use. I just like to lay it on my glass media mat and clean that off. And I use those again and again. So I'll just set that aside. And I cleaned off my stencil as well. Now going back to that Hero Arts reactive ink. So this ink reacts with water. And so I'm going to spatter some water on there from my distress sprayer. I'm just going to take that nozzle and spatter it on. And then I'll blot off any excess, and you can see the nice little spattering effect that I get on those hearts. And now to add a little bit more interest, I'm using that taffy ink pad directly on my glass media mat and adding a little bit of water with my distress sprayer and then spattering this entire panel. So now on the mountain border, we have the score lines off to the left-hand side. And on the snowy border, we have them off to the right-hand side. And that mountain border score lines are going to match up with the card itself. So now I've got the Penguin Party stamps and dies. We're going to be grabbing quite a few of these images from this little set. And we'll later on be using one of those sentiments as well. And then we've got the brand new Scent with Love stamp and die sets. And these are these cute little skunks. We're not going to be using the skunks today, but we will be using a few of the little heart elements. And for paper, we're using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock to do our stamping. And I'm using the VersaFine Onyx black ink. This is a permanent black ink. And I've placed this cardstock in my Misty stamp positioner, just in case we need to stamp it a couple of times. Although the first stamping did come out really well, so I'm just going to go with that. I'm just pressing that out. And then I do want to add a few of these little hearts. So I'm just going to place those on an acrylic block. And I think I stamped 5 of these. So let's go ahead and do our coloring. I'm using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and I'm starting off with the cheeks in the Sugared Almond Pink, and then I'm using the light gray and the dark gray to do my blending on the little penguins. I was going to use the black, but sometimes it's a little harder to work with the black. I find that this gives me a little bit more blending and shading. So if you want to get that look of black or like a charcoal gray, I like that combination of the light gray and the dark gray together. And I'm just using my blender pen to do my blending. And then I'll add a little bit of that light gray to the tummy area and just kind of sort of in a half circle down towards the bottom of the tummy and then pulling it up just to give the tummy a little bit more of a rounded look. And then I've got my orange and bright yellow for the beak and for the little feet here. And I'm just blending those 2 colors together. And then I've got the haze blue just to add kind of an icy look to our little igloo. And I've been listing all the colors in the upper left-hand corner there as we've been going along. And they're also listed down below as well. And all of the products I'm using today are listed down below and also on my blog. So now let's add a little shadow to this little sign that the penguin's holding up. And I'm adding that light gray and just pulling it in towards the center. Now I'll go ahead and color in all those other little penguins off camera. But I basically did it the exact same way as that first one there. Then adding a little light gray around that heart. And then I'm going back to that taffy color just so that things will match up with the sky here. I'm going to use my alcohol ink tool set. This is just a set of 3 really nice brushes from the Tim Holtz collection. And I like this one because it has this beautiful pointy tip. I do keep them together in the packaging. I make sure I clean them off really well, and then I put them away after I'm done using them. I like to keep these really nice and take care of them, but it is a nice little tool set. And then I'm going to add that taffy color to the chimney and to that little rose as well. And then on the little door to the igloo here. So you can add shading with this, just kind of drop in some color and then blend it up towards the top. And you can just keep dropping in more color to get that shading that you want. And then I did go back to these little hearts and I blended those out with a little bit more of that taffy color. And then I thought this heart needed a little bit more of that gray shadowing. So I'm just adding that light gray right around the edges there. And then I'll pull that in towards the middle. And that'll highlight it and give it a little bit more of a 3-dimensional look. And I'll add that light gray to my little rose as well. Now, the last thing I want to do here is add some marine green to the stem on the flower. Just keeping that center part the lightest there. Next, I'll grab a sentiment from that penguin party set that we used before. And there's some cute ones in here. I'm creating a Valentine card, so that one that says, "I love you snow much," is the one that I'm going to be using today. But there's one that says, "I'm snow glad we're friends. Have an ice day," which would be really cute for a birthday card. "You're snow cool," which would also be cute for a birthday card. So you've got a lot of options here for the sentiments. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and line that up on that little banner, and then I'll go ahead and stamp that. Now I forgot to grab this little string of hearts here that I did want to include. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly. And I colored that in the same way with that taffy ink. Now I'm adding some little white highlights to everything, and I'm using my Jelly Roll white gel pen. I added some polka dots to that little heart. And again, just some little highlights here and there. It just makes everything pop out a little bit more. So I've got the coordinating dies. I'm going to go ahead and tape those down with a little bit of purple tape, and I'll run these through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. So now we've got everything die cut. And then I wanted one more sentiment. This is from the Your Just My Type stamp set, and it says Happy Valentine's Day. And I'm going to stamp that in the bottom right-hand corner of that little snowy border. So one quick thing I want to add here before we go any further is I'm going to add a little panel to the back of this card. Because we did use that lighter weight paper, I cut a piece of cardstock at 3.5 by 4.25. So that'll fit behind the back section of our card here. I'm just going to glue that down, line that up, and then again, that just adds a little more stability to our card. So now I can fold the card in half. I'm just pressing that out with the bone folder, and now I can fold back on that score line at 2 1/8. So that creates our little Z fold card. So now the mountains, I'm going to fold the exact same way. So I'm going to fold it in half. And again, we have those score lines there, so this is really easy to do. And then I'm going to fold it back on itself at the 2 1/8 inch mark. So that's going to sit right on the bottom of our card. So let's go ahead and glue that in place. I'm just using my Tombow tape runner to do that. And I'm just, again, lining it up at the bottom of the card and with those score lines. So now for the snowy border, we're going to fold this a little bit differently. So we're going to fold that right-hand side in on itself. So you can see there we're folding towards us and then away from us. And that again creates a Z fold, but the opposite direction. So now I'm only putting tape from that score line to the end there, that 2 1/8 inch mark to the right-hand side. So just tape there. And then I want to put tape on that flap just down towards the bottom. So I'm going to use my pencil here just to mark how far I want that tape to come, which again is at 2 1/8. And I'll just draw a line here so you can see where I'm putting the tape. So just towards the right here, from that line towards the right, and then I'll glue that to that front flap of the card. And now we have that little Z fold in the front of our card. So let's go ahead and add all of our cute little critters here. Now this card is going to be a little bit smaller than your typical card because I just used that large slimline panel. This card, when it's folded, will be 4.25 by 3.5. So basically half the size of a slimline card. So because it is a little bit of a unique size, it would fit in your A2, your standard A2 size envelope. But I'm going to create an envelope that will fit this just perfectly. And I'll show you that at the end. Now for this little string of hearts, you do need to figure out where that fold is on your card, and you do need to fold that in half. Once you determine that, you can go ahead and glue it to the little wings on the penguins here. And I did have to play around with that a little bit just to make sure I got that fold lined up perfectly. So you might need to move your penguins around a little bit here. So just use some glue or some adhesive that will allow you to move them into place. And then once you have that positioned, you can glue that down permanently. And I did hold on to that for a couple of minutes here just to make sure that it was nice and dry. And then I'm just checking it here to make sure that it's lined up properly and that it opens and closes very easily. So let's go ahead and add that igloo. And then we've got all those little hearts, and I thought I would just sprinkle those around in the snow here just to bring in a little bit more of that pink and kind of that whimsical look here. So let's set the card aside for a second while we do the envelope. So I've got my We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board, and this is an older version of it. I will link up down below the newer version of this. But my card measures 3.5 by 4.25. So this is the closest measurement I can find. So I need to cut my paper 6 3/4 by 6 3/4 inches. And my first score line will be at the 3-inch mark. So I went ahead and cut some vellum paper at 6 3/4 by 6 3/4, and this is the pearlescent vellum paper from Fawn. So it has a really pretty sheen to it. So we want to place our paper at that 3-inch marking that little chart told us to. That was our first cut and punch line. So I've gone ahead and punched that little notch, and then I'm scoring at that 3-inch mark. And now from here on out, we're just going to use that score line. So we're lining it up with that little pointy feature on that punch or that little line underneath. Because we're using vellum paper, we can see those white lines underneath, those little arrows, but you can also use that little pointy feature there. So I'm going to punch and score each time I turn this paper. So again, I want to punch and score. So again, I'm lining it up with that little arrow and scoring that. So once I have that all set, I can go ahead and fold in on all of those score lines. And that's going to create the perfect size envelope we need for this card. So this is a really easy way to get the envelopes the size that you need. I'm just grabbing some 1/8 inch double-sided tape, and I'll go ahead and place that on two sides of this envelope. And then I can remove the backing and just seal that together. But first I want to round off those little pointy edges. So on the back side of this punch is a little corner rounder. So I went ahead and punched those two corners. And now I'm removing the backing from the tape, and I can go ahead and close up this envelope. Now that little extra heart that we created earlier, I'm using that as a little seal on the envelope. I just thought that would be really pretty just to finish this off. I like when you can see through the envelope and see your little creation there. So let's take a closer look at this. And this little Z-fold card was really fun to create. I can think of all sorts of possibilities here. And I do like the size. Again, the finished size is 3.5 by 4.25. And it's just cute. It makes a fun little gift card. And then you can just sign on the back or stamp another sentiment back there if you want. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.